Hello and welcome to the webinar on relating to the UKRI AI Centre for Doctoral Training in Lifelong Safety Assurance of AI-Enabled Autonomous Systems, also known as SAINTS. We're really pleased that you're joining us today and that you're interested in doing a PhD in Safe AI at the University of York. We're going to have a few talks now. They're quite quick, but they should be informative for you. We'll have the opportunity for questions as well throughout the talks. If you look at the bottom of your screen on the Zoom, you'll see a Q&A button, and that's questions and answers. So you're welcome to drop questions in to that format. We'll be monitoring those questions during the talks. We'll be answering some of them by text on that channel, and some of them we'll be answering in person at the end of the talks. Others will be answering in text format and sending you all the answers at the end of the talk, probably tomorrow. I'm Dr. Ana MacIntosh, the lead for operations and partnerships for the SAINTS CDT. We'll be talking to you today, but kicking off with our principal investigator, that's the lead, the director for the Centre for Doctoral Training, Professor Ibrahim Habli, and I'll hand you over to him now. Ibrahim.
Okay, welcome to this session. It's a pleasure to introduce you to SAINTS. It's our Center for Doctoral Training in AI Safety. Again, my name is Ibrahim Habli. I'm the SAINTS Director and a Professor of Safety Critical Systems here at York. So in this session, we will briefly explore different aspects of SAINTS, why it is a timely center, its training program, the overall student journey, and the collaborative nature of the research within and of equal importance beyond just the center. I do not really need to spend too much time motivating the topic and drawing your attention to the great promise of AI technologies, or the fact that it is already being integrated to many aspects of our daily life. You already know this. The question is, how can we achieve the true and transformative potential of AI without exposing ourselves and others to unacceptable risks? Think about the potential of AI to address global challenges in healthcare, improving access to healthcare services in all parts of the world, or even discovering new drugs. Or think about the AI realizing the ambitious goal of fully autonomous cars. And we know, technically speaking, under certain circumstances, we already know how AI-enabled systems can do all of this. But the key hurdle in this regard is, can we do it safely? Can we do it without damaging our health as individuals, our social and mental health, as well as damage communities and the environment? That's why in November, leaders from around the world came to London and Bletchley Park to debate this issue and think about AI safety. And here in the UK government is demonstrating its commitment to this area by different kinds of funding, one of which is funding 12 new centers for doctoral training in AI, focusing on different aspects of AI. And SAINTS, our doctoral training, is one of them. But SAINTS is the only CDT, Center for Doctoral Training, where AI is its primary focus. And this builds on different areas of strength in York, in particular when it comes to safety of complex systems, where York as a university is a center of excellence when it comes to demonstrating how complex systems, including AI and autonomous systems, are safe in real-world environment. The other thing which is very special about York is we value inter and cross-disciplinary research. While others talk about challenges of interdisciplinary research, here in New York, it's an asset and something we truly enjoy. So what is SAINTS and what's the vision for science. So our vision as a center, as a community, as a group, is to graduate future leaders from across disciplines who can assure that AI-enabled autonomous systems are safe and will remain safe in the evolving real-world environments in which they are deployed. And here I'd like to draw your attention to a couple of things about the vision. The first one is the CDT is inter and multidisciplinary. We don't believe that AI safety is purely a technical matter, but a socio-technical matter where in order to advance the deployment of safe AI systems, we want different disciplines to come together. Lawyers, philosophers, machine learning engineers, and others to come and collaborate to address the challenge of assuring safety from different perspectives. Because it's meaningless to talk about safety in a technical matter where in reality humans don't trust it, or the legal system is not ready to enable us to deploy these systems. The other important thing about our center is we're not just talking about safe systems which we carry out and ensure during the design of those systems, but systems which are safe and we can provide evidence that they will continue to be safe throughout their existence, in particular in dynamic and real-world environments. Because we know that the real world is changing, hospitals are changing, the road infrastructure is changing, and therefore those systems need to evolve, and more importantly, evolve safely to continue to be safe for its users. So what are key features of SAINS as a Center for Doctoral Training? The first one is, like any other CDT, it's cohort-based, where different researchers and doctoral researchers come together to work together on some joint challenges. They learn together, as well as they train in many different aspects of their research together. The other important thing, which we'll talk more about, is that it is team-based. Each research student will have their individual project, but people will work as part of teams to address a larger challenge which requires contribution from different perspectives. The other thing which I already mentioned, it's inherently cross-disciplinary, where machine learning engineers, lawyers, philosophers, social scientists will be working together and co-located to research AI safety. The approach is highly inclusive, where individuals as well as groups will be encouraged and enabled to and empowered to speak up and realize their true potential, regardless of their backgrounds or any other aspects. The last thing which is interesting about SAINS is we take a whole systems approach to the problem, where we don't just say, well, we'll take a slice of the problem and leave the more complicated bits for others. We want to be able to address the issue of AI safety from different perspectives, but in an integrated manner, where take the issue of responsibility, for example. We want to be able to explore it from a moral point of view, from a social point of view, and also from a legal point of view in an integrated manner, rather than a siloed way. Within SAINS, we have two key themes, overarching themes, which will stay with us for the next 8 years. The first one is what we call lifelong safety assurance or safety of AI systems, where we are interested in designing systems which are safe to deploy, but of equal importance that they will continue to be safe and assured throughout their life. And here we're interested in questions of retraining, continual learning, or emerging things to do with the use of large language models and safe critical applications. The second theme is to do with the notion of autonomy, in particular the transfer of cognitive functions from humans to machines and the implications of those. And here we're interested in areas, for example, to do with human AI teaming, where we move away from saying whether the AI system is safe, to considering whether the human AI teaming itself is safe, because we know that real-world applications would require collaboration between the human and the machine, rather than just over-focusing on the machine itself. The last thing to say here is that the research is interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, but the team itself is diverse and reflecting our commitment to diversity and and taking an interdisciplinary approach. And we have a fantastic team which will look and collaborate with the doctoral researchers throughout their journey. So that's me, and it's good to talk to you. And I'm sure I'll take some of your questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibrahim. That's great. We'll next be speaking to Dr. Colin Paterson, who is our training lead for the Saints CDT. He'll be telling you a bit more about what it means to be part of a centre for doctoral training rather than doing an individual PhD. Colin, over to you.
Hi there. Right, let me get this open. Great. Okay, thanks for joining us this morning. So as Anna said, I'm the training co-lead for the CDT. And today what you're probably thinking about is Saints an opportunity for me to get my PhD? What's it going to do to allow me to get my PhD? One of the things we have to think about is how we prepare you for the journey, the 4 years that is the CDT. So at the end of that, you're going to sit an exam and a viva, you're going to present your research and you're going to defend it. So we need to think about how we're going to train you in how you do that research, how you're going to find that research area, how you present it to others, how you persuade them that it's impactful. But that's only the beginning, because actually a PhD is the start of a research journey for you. So actually what we have to think about is, where do you go next? Myself, I've spent 20 years in industry and 20 years in academia. So I understand that the skills that you learn in your time here, that PhD is not the end, but it's the thing you're going to take out into the world. And that's where you're going to start having an impact on research communities, on industrial practice, on policy, on governance. And you're going to make a real difference to the way things are done in the world. So we have to think about this whole life of you as a safe AI researcher. And that's why we built our training course really on 3 different pillars. A set of taught modules, which I'll talk about in a second, opportunities for you to practice the skills that you're gaining in real world contexts, and then a set of events that allow you for those one-off big opportunities to see how things work and to display your skills. So in terms of our taught modules, this is quite different to an undergraduate or even a master's program, but we do realize that because we're multidisciplinary, we have to bring all of our PGRs up to the same level so that they can all understand and talk a common language. So you may have already done an MSc in AI, or you may have already done an MSc in law, but you're still going to sit alongside the rest of your cohort on these modules, because you're going to get an understanding of what it means for them to understand your subject area, and for what it takes for you to discuss across those boundaries. And it's one of the real strengths of having a cohort-based CDT. So there's 3 strands here. There's basic AI, and advanced AI. There's law, ethics, and society, with a focus on what AI and what the impacts are. And then the safety and how it's applied to the design of autonomous systems that use AI at its core. And they're going to be taught modules that are delivered over the first 14 months. It's not 14 months of delivery. There are modules within that time. Because alongside that, you're going to be shaping your own research, and you're going to be doing personalized learning to support your own particular interests based on the information you've got from the modules, but going further and learning from other sources. And to allow that to happen, we've also got practice. And throughout, you're going to have seminars that are aiming on, how do I develop my academic skills? How do I actually write for the research community? What does it mean to deliver something that can be published and is publishable? What does it mean to do methodical and scientific approaches to research? We're also going to be sat alongside that professional skills development. So how might you do presentations? How might you network with individuals? And these training opportunities, these seminars, will be run at times across the 4 years when it's most applicable for you. So clearly, we're not telling you how to write a CV in month 1, but as you're getting towards the end of the program, we start to look about what it means to transition out of a PhD and into the world of work, be that in academia or in professional contexts. At the core of everything we do is safety and responsibility. So there's going to be responsibility AI seminars running throughout the 4 years, helping you to frame your work. And one of the things that makes SAINTS quite different is that you're going to be part of a team. And I'll mention a little bit more about that later. But it's an opportunity for you to meet regularly, 4 times a year, with stakeholders who are members of the public, people working in industry, the people who are going to really use your work when it leaves the university and it ends up in the real world context. And you're going to get feedback from them about what it means to make that impactful. And then we're going to have a set of events. So in the summer, we run summer schools and hackathons where you get the opportunity to come together with your cohort and solve multidisciplinary problems. So it might be thinking about how you fly drones through a mine and make sure they're safe and what are the legal implications. It might be looking at how you use robotics in a home care setting and saying, what are the ethical issues around this? How do we prevent AI from doing harm in those cases? Every year, there'll be a research showcase where you get to talk about where you are and discuss with PhDs from around the university and further afield about how your research is shaping the problem areas in which you're working. And of course, we have opportunities for academic exchange, industrial placement with our partners, and opportunities to do outreach, for you to go and work in other contexts to explain why safe AI is so important. One of the things I want to make clear to you about the PhD and about CDTs in general, but particularly SAINTS, is that you're not doing this alone. Like any traditional PhD, you will have this idea of a supervisory group that meets with you regularly to support your work. Because we are industrially focused, your supervisory group may well have industrial as well as academic supervision. But we also have this research team where you and other PhDs will be meeting with your supervision teams, but also members of the public, panels from industry, and those people who can frame your work for you. And that's going to allow you to ground this. One of the real challenges in a PhD is explaining the significance and the relevance of the work you're doing. And this is going to give you the real opportunity to ground that in everything you write, in everything you present, and everything you do. So we think that we've got a really good training program here that's going to make sure that you come through this CDT successfully, that not only will you be able to deliver a PhD at the end of it and present your viva and defend your research, but you'll be able to go on into industry or into academia and make a real difference to the way that the world views safe AI. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin. That's great. What I'd like to do is now tell you a little bit more about the SAINTS community. So the SAINTS CDT is really pleased to have the support of 34 partner organisations already, and we're having more and more organisations contacting us each day, trying to figure out how they can be involved in our Centre for Doctoral Training. There's a wide range of partners involved already, from policy organisations like the Office for Product Safety and Standards, the British Standards Institution, and the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, but also going all the way through to companies like NATS, the National Air Traffic Services, Jaguar Land Rover, BT, and plenty of others. What each of these partners has in common is an understanding that what we need societally is more research across disciplines, and they have a deep commitment to supporting that here in the University of York. That means that every student will have an opportunity for an exchange into one of our partner organisations, but also that they will come and deliver seminars, get involved in discussions and project meetings, and we'll also provide case studies when that's appropriate for projects. On top of that, our partners have committed to provide career advice, and many of them are really looking forward to having our graduates employed within the companies. So they'll be providing opportunities and guidance for how to do that. The Centre for Doctoral Training will also be located within our new institute, the Institute for Safe Autonomy, which is the only institute of its kind in the UK and further afield. That's where I am right now, but it's also a really pleasant place to work with about 80 researchers who are housed here. We have quite a wide variety of activities going on here, from industry collaboration through to basic research. It's a place where people come together and have real thriving conversations. And it's something that we're really proud to host here in the University of York. I guess it's a sign of the ongoing commitment that the government has to safe autonomy, that we've had this institute set up for a couple of years, and now we're hosting the Centre for Doctoral Training, where we can bring together some of the brightest minds to do PhDs with us. That's everything from me, and I'll hand over now to Tracy Dancer. Tracy has been involved in admissions and recruitments and the running of another Centre for Doctoral Training, so she's really the expert for how these kinds of centres run. But in this instance, she'll be speaking to you a bit more about the admissions and recruitment process. If you have any questions on this or anything else, then do continue to drop those into the Q&A section of the Zoom chat, and we'll pick those up either in person or in the chat. Tracy, over to you.
Thanks, Anna, and welcome to everyone here today. Applying to the CDT in the first instance is relatively simple. We have 3 stages. Many of you have already completed the first stage, which is great. For those that haven't, there's a link to a Google form that's placed on the Saints web page on the University of York website. I'm sure you've probably all seen that anyway. And within the introduction to that Google form, you can find a PDF copy of all of the questions that you'll be asked for stage 1, just so that you don't have to go through everything. This stage of the application process collects your academic qualifications and details about your skills and experiences, along with some basic personal information. If you get through the review process at stage 1, you'll be invited to stage 2, where we'll ask you to provide more details about your research interests in relation to the themes that have been discussed, and also how your skills and experience make you an ideal candidate for us. More details will be provided to those invited to stage 2. Sorry, I haven't clicked my slide. Let's hit my slide. So that's the web page that hopefully you've all seen. Those who are successful at stage 2 will be invited along to stage 3, which is a day-long group selection event, which we'll invite you to attend in person. But if you can't attend in person, there will be an online event of equivalent experiences as well. Again, further details will be made available to you if you're successful in reaching stage 3. So just to be clear, the process starts with you filling in the stage 1 application form, and thereafter you'll be invited to subsequent stages. You can't enter at subsequent stages themselves. So in terms of the timelines, stage 1 closes at noon next Wednesday. So for those that haven't put their applications in yet, you do have a few days left, and we welcome your applications. We do hope to be able to let you know the results by Tuesday, the 23rd of January. Now, you'll see an asterisk on that bullet point. That is subject to change if we get more applications than anticipated, because we want to give you all equal chance and equal viewing by our reviewers, so it might take a little longer, so do bear with us. But our aim is Tuesday, the 23rd of January. Stage 2 then closes on Thursday, the 22nd of February. So you've got several weeks to put your application in for stage 2 if you're invited forward for that. And we aim to let you know the results of that, again, subject to the caveat there, by Monday, the 11th of March. And if you're successful, then we'll invite you along to stage 3, which, as I mentioned, is the full day group selection event, which will include a one-to-one interview, which will take place during the week commencing March 18th. So hopefully that answers one of the questions that was put forward in the text, asking for an outline of the timelines. And I wish you all the very best of luck. I think we'll be going back to questions.
Oh, you're muted, Anna.
Thanks to you, Tracy, and thanks also to my colleagues for providing all that information. Thanks to you for dropping in questions into the chat. And we've been answering some of them as we've been going along. So if you haven't seen those, please do click on the Q&A at the bottom. And then we have a couple which we'll be answering live. So Colin, first of all, I'm going to come to you for a question around how to submit individual thesis or whether that's collective. How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the heart of this is still an individual thesis. Your research will be unique to you, but the idea is that there will be a context on which your whole team is working on. So that may be that there'll be 2 or 3 of you within your team are looking specifically at one application, but one could be looking at it from an AI modeling point of view, one could be looking at it from an ethical point of view, somebody else could be looking at it from a legal point of view. So the research you're doing is individual and driven by you and your supervision team, and your thesis is your own. The context is one that is shared by your team and is shaped by the partners that you're working with.
Thanks, Colin. So a quick one, which I'd like to answer, is that we have 12 PhD positions starting in 2024 and 12 each year for the next 5 years. So that's 60 in total, but this year there are 12 positions open and there'll be a mixture of PhDs in different disciplines. So they won't all be computer science. About just over half of them will be computer science background or technical background PhDs. The others will be in the different disciplines. So Colin and Ibrahim, I'm not sure which one of you would like to pick up on the question around what will be involved in stage 2 specifically.
Right.
So Colin, perhaps since you've picked up on some of that already.
Ibrahim, you start. I think
I'll make a start. So I think Luke Richards asked a good question. I responded to, but in general, for stage 2, this is what we're after. So we are going to publish a couple of research challenges which fit under our themes on lifelong safety assurance and autonomy. And in your applications, we will be asking you to present the equivalent of a research statement or a proposal demonstrating how your proposed research fits within these challenges. Okay, so if you're a lawyer, it's interested in, let's say, legal liability, then the challenge you have is to demonstrate how your specific proposed research could address one of those challenges on human AI teaming or AI-enabled robotics. So and therefore, your proposal should have to be specific rather than general to these themes, which all fit under the umbrella of AI safety. And here it's good to bear in mind what we're after here. We would like to see some research capability that you can demonstrate in terms of processing the challenge we have and showing, for example, that you can demonstrate novelty in research or some element of engagement with the literature. So that's why I suggest that you spend time researching the field before presenting your research statement.
Yeah, the stage 2 is about us trying to find how we're going to construct a cohort that works well together. So there's a couple of things we're needing to look at. We're needing to look at whether your research has significance and originality. They're 2 things that we're always looking at for any PhD. So it's how you're shaping it within those themes to be there. But we're also looking at why you feel you have the skills that align with the work that's going to be undertaken, why this CDT, why the shape of it and working in teams in this way and working with our partners is going to be something that's going to deliver good research. So the proposal is an opportunity for you to answer those questions. What research and how and why you? That's really what we're looking for at stage 2.
Thanks both. And there's also just a following question, which is around what we mean in terms of group selection. So why don't I make a start on that one and you can add into that one. So group selection for us means that what we're wanting is a cohort of PhD students. That's a group of PhD students who can work together in a team. So what we'll be doing is inviting anyone who's been successful into stage 3 to come to York. There'll be a backup plan for anyone who's too far or who's unable to come, but we'd really like to see as many people as possible in person. And we'll be asking them to work together on the day of selection, showing us what it is that they can do and what they can bring to a team, both in terms of team activities, but also in terms of the way they think and the way their research can be complementary to other disciplines. So that what we're looking for is people who aren't simply stuck in their own discipline and unable to work collaboratively with other researchers. We're looking for people who can really take a bigger picture and understand the context of their work, understand and respect other perspectives and other disciplines, and really thrive in that environment. So, any other questions that we'd like to answer specifically? Ibrahim, there's a question around whether we have a fixed number of researchers in each area, and by which I'm taking to mean in each discipline. Do you want to say something about the mixture of people in each cohort?
Yeah, so in general, we are after a good balance between technical and non-technical disciplines. So in general, we're talking about 12 students, and we expect that half of whom, or 7 of whom, will be from engineering or computer science disciplines, because ultimately we need within a particular cohort to have enough people who understand the technology itself. And then the other half will be from other disciplines, philosophers, lawyers, and social scientists. And here we're allowing ourselves flexibility depending on the specific challenges that we're after. But in general, the balance is 50-50 between technical, by technical I mean computer science or engineering disciplines, on non-technical disciplines.
Thank you. The question that we now have is how part-time PhDs fit into the timeline. So a normal PhD, which is full-time as part of this Centre for Doctoral Training, will be 4 years, and a part-time PhD will be 8 years. And the way that we think that that works is that we will be asking PhD candidates to concentrate on the training element of their PhD in the first year, so that they have the same skills going into their PhD as everyone else, allowing them to do the research part of the PhD at a more flexible pace over the following years. That's something that we've had working as part of our group for many years. We have a number of part-time PhD students, either because of their personal circumstances or because they are in employment in one of our collaborators, for example. It's something that's quite common here. And what we're doing is working really hard to make sure that you are still part of the cohort, but also able to work at a different pace. There'll be no downside to being a part-time PhD. You'll be treated equally in every regard. It's just that you'll be working on a slower timescale to achieving that PhD. So the other questions that I can see at the moment are quite subject specific or quite individual questions. We're happy to answer those probably in either emails or afterwards as a more general answer. So I can see that we have a couple of our participants who've asked about their specific circumstances. What we'll do is we'll reply to all of that with a moderated answer, which basically gives you some advice. But broadly speaking, we can see that we've got candidates in the question and answer session who've got backgrounds in economics, philosophy, law, and all of those are excellent backgrounds for our CDT. And we're really keen to encourage those kinds of candidates to be part of the team. And again, as Ibrahim said, with just over half of the cohorts made up of computer scientists, we want that balance, and that's exactly the kinds of topics that would be real value contributing to the Centre for Doctoral Training.
There's one question that I'd like to just add a little to, if I can. Somebody's asked do you get an MSc as part of this? The answer, as Tracy's put in the written piece there, is no. This isn't an MSc program. This is a PhD program. We don't have a separate MSc as part of this. And part of the reason for that in designing our training is an understanding that you are multidisciplinary, and the training is designed to bring you all together. It would be quite artificial actually to try and build an MSc out of that training program. I think we would find ourselves having to make all kinds of compromises that we wouldn't want to do. So no, we haven't given MSc but the training is drawn from many of the MSc programs around the university. So we are using materials, we are using information, and we've we have extra stuff that we've developed specifically for the multidisciplinary nature of the program.
Thank you. So that leaves us really just to close off the webinar, and thank you for attending. Thank you for contributing questions. It's always helpful to know what it is that we haven't made clear yet. If there are more questions that you come up against, then please do contact us through the Saints website, which you can now see on the slide which we're sharing with you. We'll leave that up. We'll also publish this webinar in the next few days to make sure that you have access to all of this information as well as written answers to the questions that you've submitted. We look forward to having your applications and we hope that you're as excited about the Centre for Doctoral Training as we are. We look forward to having you here in York. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.